Welcome to the Friday live stream. This is the eCommerceaholic Show. And today I've got a couple of guests for you. We're going to talk about Magento 1 to Magento 2 migrations. If you ask questions, if you don't, then we're just going to talk about whatever the hell we want to talk about. So I've got a great drink here. I've been drinking some John Emerald single malt for the last, off and on for the last month or so. And I need to polish this bottle off so I can buy something else. So I'm going to drink as much of it as I can for the next hour, hour and a half while we're here live streaming. So I'll let my guests introduce themselves. They can do a better job of telling you how awesome they are than I can. Ginty, the floor is yours.
Yep. Hey, TJ. Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me on the podcast tonight in this beautiful April day, 1 week to go before Imagine. My name is Gentian Shero. I am the founder and CEO of Shero Commerce. We used to be called Shero Designs. Now some people call us Shero Commerce. We just call ourselves just Shero, and we're based out of Poughkeepsie, New York, and I'm here to enjoy the talk with TJ and Aaron and anyone else who will join our call. Thank you.
And I'm Aaron Sheehan. I'm the lead consultant at Classy Llama, sometimes known as Classy Llama Studios, but mostly just known as Classy Llama, out of Springfield, Missouri. And I have with me a local beer because TJ said that drinking was mandatory, so I didn't want to anger him. So this is a White River Gravel Bar IPA. I've never had it, and I got a stein to drink it out of. Good beer deserves a good stein. And I too am here to talk about Magento 1 to Magento 2 upgrades or migrations or wherever else conversation takes us. Nice.
And we've got the chat going, and David Nettleton has asked, who's the Joker in the hat? It's Magento hat, hashtag Mage Hat Friday.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
And I just realized I've been running late all day. I just realized I do not have my microphone, the big mic, hooked up here. So I'm going to see if I can do this on the fly and not break something. We'll see how that goes. But pose your questions. Let us know. You know, we'll talk about it a little bit. You know, I don't know how technical we'll get, but, you know, feel free to try to stump us. We'll just ignore your question if it's too difficult. So, you know, and like I said, we can talk about the migration stuff. That was a requested topic by one of our viewers or somebody on Twitter that might possibly view eventually. I don't really know if they've actually watched the show. But we're just here to try to provide value to you guys. So, you know, how valuable it is depends on you interacting. Looks like we've got, 10 people watching the beginning of the stream here. We'll see. Feel free to chat. Let us know what you're thinking. Post where you're from. This is a little bit later than we normally been doing these, so we can get more of an international audience. But I'm not sure, most of them may be asleep or at the pub by now. If they're, if it's 10 or 11 o'clock, I wouldn't be watching this crap. So let's talk Magento 1 to Magento 2 migrations. And a lot of people, we get a lot of questions, and I see a lot of questions online asking about upgrading from Magento 1 to Magento 2. So, fellas, what do you think about the term, when you hear someone ask, how do I, or can you, or what does it look like upgrading to Magento 2? What is your answer to that? What do you think?
Should I go first or Aaron?
Just jump in, man. Just jump in. Just this is an aggressive video cast, so just hop in there, throw it. You are the alpha. This is your show.
Yeah. So I think it's a great idea. Everything or every merchant online will eventually have to move to Magento 2 sooner or later. The platform is looking really good, becoming super stable, and it will only get better. So, you know, like us as an agency, we've seen like a huge increase in leads this year. So that means that the interest is out there, and more and more merchants, whether merchants that are trying to migrate or to upgrade to Magento 2 or to re-platform, however you want to consider that, or people that are completely new to Magento. So yeah.
Yeah, all of that. I know that the correct terminology, I think, among a lot of partners is migration and not upgrade. I think we all know what merchants mean when they come and ask you that question. And sometimes it's a very simple, I'm doing this because I feel like I have to, right? My platform's going end of life, and I want everything I have today. I just want it Magento 2 flavored. And I want to sort of like get on with my business because I'm not looking to make any significant changes in, you know, my channels or my features or my theme or any of that. But honestly, I would say most of the people who come in the door asking for that, when you start drilling in on the conversation, it actually ends up going in, oh yeah, and I want to start selling B2B, and oh yeah, I'd like to open up a new store to sell something else, or I'd like to move international or something like that. And so what starts off as a right-click, save as Magento 2, ends up as actually sort of like a full project of some sort with requirements and timeline and scope and, you know, some serious ROI metrics around them. So it goes both ways.
Yeah, I think that's what we've been seeing as well. A lot of merchants that come to us, if they're not already customers and they want to move toward Magento 2, you know, we try to explain to them that this is an opportunity for a small project, right? You know, maybe you want some new functionality, maybe your own community and you want to evaluate enterprise, but worst case, it's an opportunity to kind of evaluate all of the bloat you've accumulated over the last however many years you've been adding to that Magento 1 site. And a lot of modules and features that maybe you've added to Magento 1 are already in Magento 2, or you know, maybe you don't need that functionality. And so it's an opportunity to just kind of reevaluate everything before you start making that migration, because it's not an upgrade. We definitely key in on someone asking the term upgrade. I mean, it's an improvement. So if that's what you mean by upgrade, it's definitely an improvement, but it's not like you were upgrading from Magento 1X to Magento 1Z. So it's, you know, it's a little more of a project. You're not just going to move the modules over. You're going to need Magento 2 equivalents, those kinds of things. So it's definitely absolutely a project. And we try to make sure we explain to merchants and we give them the opportunity to reevaluate the functionality they're currently carrying, because, you know, things have changed. The web's changed. Browsers have changed. You know, people are on phones more. And so, you know, this may be a great opportunity to kind of roll in some of that stuff you don't have currently.
Yep.
Absolutely. So listen. Oh yeah, David says that merchants have no idea what they want, and I, you know, they want more sales. That's usually, you know, sometimes that's the extent of it. Sometimes that's what they know. What do you want? I want more sales. Well, what is, you know, how do we get more sales? Is that new features on your website, or is that something else? I mean, I talked to a merchant today that had a Magento 1 site and they weren't doing much in sales. They're killing it on Amazon. You know, they're doing great in other channels, but their own Magento site's not doing too well. Well, you know, moving to Magento 2 is not going to help that because they're not getting the traffic. So it's not a feature problem. Although the features may help your conversion rate, but if you're converting 100% of your zero amount of visitors, you're still going to have zero sales, no matter what kind of gold nugget we put out there. So they, you know, they know they want more sales, but, you know, depending on their level of
of sophistication, you know, they may or may not know what that looks like. And you always try to advise them on how to navigate those waters. And the answer is not always a new website.
Yeah, agreed. Also, to add to what you're saying, TJ, is that a lot of merchants that come to us, they have heard that Magento 1 will not be supported anymore after a certain date. So they are kind of like taking preliminary measures to not be, you know, like left with a website that is not supported anymore. So that's what we've seen. And also we've seen other clients that are on Magento 1 that, you know, I think Magento 2 is super trendy, it's new technology, it's super fast or much faster, especially Magento Cloud, the cloud infrastructure with Platform SH. Merchants have heard that it's much faster than Magento 1, and based on our tests as an agency that we've done, indeed, you know, the cloud solution is super fast. So yeah.
No, absolutely. And David asked another question here. Do you see some merchants who are able to get rid of legacy M1 custom code by utilizing new M2 features? For example, B2B, or, you know, like improved checkout, I guess would be a good example of that. What are you seeing there at Classy Llama?
That, a lot of that. We've been doing a lot of B2B, the new 2.2 B2B stuff, right? So quoting, you know, maybe somebody wasn't doing quoting, or they're using a third-party module to do quoting, and now you get to use sort of a more native, a native solution there. Sometimes like multi-account, so I've got, you know, a company with multiple users under it. That's all been sort of custom. If I'm trying to handle the login management and permissions around that, that's native. That's something that that we've seen where you do the upgrade and you get to pull out, you know, third-party or, you know, vendor code and use something that you know is going to be supported by the core team going forward. So yeah, quite a few times. Now we've had to add to that in a lot of cases. Everybody's B2B. Everybody does B2B differently. That's one thing that I've really learned a lot in the last 2 years, is that there's not much standardization in B2B. So the new Magento B2B logic is kind of a good platform. It's a good stepping off point. You probably should still expect to do some light customization to it. But yeah, we replaced many lines of code.
Yeah, as far as like B2B, Ginty, are you guys are really, I mean, at least I know you as fashion, like really, I mean, New York agency, you do a lot of fashion stuff. Are you seeing a lot of B2B customers? And you know, how are they coming for that 2.2 functionality to maybe replace what they were kind of hacking into a Magento 1 store?
We've seen quite a few leads lately, actually, that are trying to do B2B, and the Magento order management or other B2B solutions that, you know, the Amazon integration that is coming up for channel, you know, to cater to other channels as well, is becoming like really important, and we've seen a big traction. I think, you know, Magento 2 is like a really good solution for B2B, for internationalization, for multi-store, multi-site, you know, so it's a really good solution. For us, we are in New York and we've done fashion in the past, but we have a variety of customers or industries that we cater, you know, from B2B, non-profit, fashion, you know, we don't have a specific niche, but yeah, so I think it is, you know, up and coming, and it is a really good solution. I don't know if you have any like specific question about B2B, maybe, or
well, the question we got in the chat was around: are you seeing merchants that are coming to Magento 2 from Magento 1? Are they able to oftentimes get rid of custom functionality in Magento 1 with core functionality in Magento 2. And a great example of that, because that's one of the biggest differences in the two platforms, is B2B. So, you know, are they able to use B2B instead of you know, the having to hack that in or buy modules? Are they able to use Bluefoot instead of having to fish pig in a WordPress installation? Are they able to use the improved checkout features of Magento instead of, you know, throwing in a one-page checkout module? Or basically, I think what the question is alluding to is, are Magento 2 implementations simpler because it's in the core than trying to get some of that functionality in Magento 1?
It depends. It's relative to the project, the level of complexity or simplicity. I think that with Magento 2, yes, it eliminates the need for the custom code or like IWD design B2B module that is built into Magento 2. But again, it's like it's too early to tell. We have a couple of big B2B websites that we are building with like up to like 10 websites multi-store, 2 of them actually. And we don't have anything. We have one project that is live that does heavy B2B, but I don't have anything specific to, you know, like the back up the B2B features or functionality of Magento 2 yet.
Right. And you know, we're talking to, for example, I think it was this week I talked to a merchant that was looking to do exactly what this question is asking. Like, the whole reason they're looking to go Magento 2 is to simplify their technology stack, to simplify their technical debt, to lower their total cost of ownership of maintaining year over year their store, because they have all of this B2B functionality, negotiated pricing and tiered accounts and all of this stuff, and it's all custom. It's custom modules they purchased and then customized on top of that. And the Magento core B2B modules just provide 99% of what they need. And so they're looking to make that move just because the cost of maintaining that thing they've patchworked together is going to be more than a new implementation. So we're definitely seeing a lot of that. And it just depends on your functionality, right? If you need B2B, if you need something that's there, then obviously that's a huge benefit. If the functionality you're still going to have to recreate on Magento 2, well, then, you know, that's not a real big selling point, because if it's not in core in Magento 2, you're still going to have to create it. And to Aaron's point, B2B is its own monster in that, that Magento did a good job of doing some of that middle of the road functionality, but every industry has different requirements around what a B2B implementation looks like. So I'll get to more questions here. Let's see. All right, Brooklyn Heritage here. Any big difficulty with migrating customers' orders and passwords from Magento 1 to Magento 2? Either of you fellas have any insight on migrating customers, data migration?
Yeah, absolutely. Customers and orders, we've had not many problems with that. Passwords, we've not been able to successfully migrate. It's been our standard procedure now to have customers reset their passwords when we do the migration. I think they're hashed differently. There's a different standard being used to store them in the DB, and that's probably one of the reasons why that doesn't come over. So we found it less work to just do that.
So how do you go about doing that when you launch a site? Are you just mass emailing all the customers and letting them know, or is there some notification when they come to the site to reset the password? How do you implement that? Yes
and yes. Yes to both. We'll do a bulk email, sort of like, hey, welcome to the new site. You'll need to we changed platforms or something like that, just like you would on a re-platform, right? Because this happens a lot outside of the context of a M1 to M2 migration. Come see the new site. reset your password, here's a 5% off coupon or something. Like you can make those emails do double duty. They're a good win back opportunity as well as sort of informative for people. And you just kind of have to expect that, you're going to have higher customer service volume for some period of time when you do a big shift like that. People, will get confused and not do that. And then often there will be a banner or something on the page. Use native CMS functionality, right? Like put a block out there and say, hey, if you had an account, go reset your password. So that's pretty normal.
Makes sense. Genti, are you seeing the same thing? Is that the same way you're tackling that at this point?
Yeah. So we the data and customers and order migration is a different beast by itself. Usually, like you can use the migration tool from Magento, the data migration tool. You can use like a third-party company. It depends on the size and complexity and and how much data do they want to move over. But in order for it to be successful, I would say that it needs to be planned in advance and evaluate what kind of data you want to move over. For example, you can archive out all orders since like a year ago to reduce the complexity and the speed of like how fast this migration will happen, because it can, if you use the tool, it can take like a couple of days, or you let it run overnight. Then, as I said, just plan in advance and don't underestimate it, but don't fear it either. And make sure that like you have a plan in place, and you can do it with the migration tool. You can do it with like a company we've used before. Like Built by Data. It's a pretty good company. Expensive though, but you get what you give. Then we used once. We used Card to Quote, never using them again. Big fish. And I would highly discourage anyone from using Card to Quote. We learned our lesson. So yeah.
Yeah, I learned that one almost a decade ago. I think at least 5 or 6 years ago. That let's just say M1 to M2 moves, or from other carts to Magento 1 moves, were fun when using their platform. It definitely added a level of entertainment I was not prepared for.
Yeah.
We've got a few other things here. And guys, keep your questions coming, your comments. We're just here to try to provide some usefulness to you folks, and so the questions you ask are what we'll talk about. If you don't ask questions and you don't steer this conversation, then we're liable to just start rambling about anything. So keep us on task here, keep us on point, keep asking questions. We're happy to answer those. If you would, while you're watching, you might as well subscribe to the channel. We're at 316 subscribers as of the start of this live stream. If we can get to 1,000, YouTube gives us another level of trust and some additional functionality, so that when you search for Magento related topics, you don't get garbage channels that talk about SaaS platforms. We need to take over YouTube for Magento. Give us the love, hit the thumbs up on the video. That always helps, and be sure to subscribe to the channel, and I do appreciate it. So we're going to, let's see, Brooklyn Heritage in the chat says that Magento 1 CE to Magento 2 CE, or Magento 2 open source, as they want us to call it nowadays, didn't add much on the upgrade. It changes a good bit, but didn't really get a lot as far as new functionality. Says some of the admin enhancements maybe, but overall the same needs to address with third-party modules exist on one of their projects. So if you're upgrading from Community Edition to Community Edition, or Community Edition to open source, there's not a ton of functionality difference. I would argue that the performance is better. The theme is already better. You get some benefits there. But overall the really good stuff is going into enterprise. But that was one of the knocks on Enterprise Edition for Magento 1. It's like, why would I pay for the license when I get nothing? All I'm getting for paying that big enterprise license is support, and I'm already paying some agency for support. So, you know, it was a much tougher sale. So it makes sense for Magento to grow as a company and to continue to be healthy, to put the really good features in Magento Enterprise Edition. So Community Edition is obviously falling a little further behind on some of those cool new features, but you know, it's still a great platform that is more modern and better than Magento 1 out of the box. Obviously, there's some complexity with the more modern part, and it's, you know, there's still a lot of learning to do on how to implement. But do either of you guys do any Community Edition open source builds, or are you pretty much exclusively Enterprise Edition?
Classy Llama still does community builds. The percentage of those has dropped, I would say, over the last couple of years, kind of to your point, TJ. I mean, Enterprise has become a much more compelling purchase for a merchant now than it used to be. I mean, I would absolutely agree with everything that you said. With that said, there's still plenty of merchants for whom, you know, they're going to, if they're going to hack it a whole bunch anyway because they have something particularly custom, then community / I don't know. I'm still not down with the naming conventions yet.
Me either.
Yeah, but yeah, no, we still do both.
Yeah, yes, I would second Aaron over there. We do both, but the leads that come in for Community Edition have like drastically dropped. Not that many, and we've seen a lot of interest for Magento Commerce or Magento Enterprise, as it used to be called, and then, you know, like for the cloud solution, a lot of interest lately as well, because it's more price, price competitive with the self-hosted. Or I'm not 100% sure as to like, hey, what the price difference is, but I've seen like a great interest about, you know, like the Magento Cloud lately versus, you know, like self-hosted Magento Commerce as well.
Right. Yeah, and we still do some Community Edition builds, but you know, kind of what Aaron said, it's usually a special case. You know, if you've got the revenue to support the enterprise license, we strongly urge you to get it, because the tools can help you. And even if you're a smaller merchant on the verge, those are usually the case by case basis, is that we evaluate what your needs are, and we would much rather see you have a successful Magento 2 open source launch, so that maybe Enterprise Edition is in your future, than to see you, you know, try to struggle and do it on your own, or maybe go to someone that doesn't have Magento experience, or end up on one of those awful SaaS platforms that we won't talk about on this live stream. I kid. Some of those SaaS platforms are okay sometimes for some people. So, yeah, I mean, we do a few, but you know, we want to help merchants. We want to help merchants grow, and sometimes you find those guys that have, you know, they have some revenue and they're doing okay in their own Magento 1 Community Edition, and they want to move to Magento 2 open source, but the revenue's not quite there yet. You know, they need another year or two of growth to really be able to, you know, to have the staff to adequately utilize the tools and to actually get some benefit from Enterprise Edition, and to cover the costs. And we enjoy those builds. We like those merchants because we can make a real difference in their business. You know, if you're doing 100 million and you just want a Magento 2 Enterprise Edition implementation, and we're just going to be order takers, that's not near as fun as taking a $1 or $1.5 million a year business and helping them get to 5.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to go back here for questions. I know we've got still some things in the chat here. David Nettleton said he had a hard time finding cool new stuff for Magento 2. How are y'all seeing as far as the availability? I mean, the availability of modules is there, but are you seeing a lot of innovation in the Magento 2 module space, or Is there, is there new stuff out there, or kind of how are you evaluating and seeing the Magento 2 marketplace at this point?
I feel like it's close to parity with the way it was on 1 prior to the cutover. I mean, there was a long period there where you just didn't have the coverage, and there are still some gaps, absolutely. But when I rarely have trouble finding if there was a commercially available extension for Magento 1. I usually don't have trouble finding it for Magento 2. The only exception to that I would say is there are a lot of companies out there that built integrations, like in-house built integrations to their ERP or their OMS or something like that for Magento 1. And those folks are taking a very long time, some of them, to sort of come around to Magento 2. And so one thing I am seeing is a lot more people using the Magento 2 API REST API to power their integrations. That was sort of tricky with Magento 1 because the API wasn't particularly robust. I'm seeing more people now, more vendors, sort of their solution is creating an API user and just using the native API and route it through some sort of middleware on their side. So it's maybe less of a problem, even that there aren't bespoke extensions for that. But I haven't had too much trouble in the last year finding things.
Yeah, the same here. Anything that you search for, you can find it in the marketplace for Magento 2 functionality. There are different extensions. I see a lot more, like SaaS solutions as well, which are coming up. But you can find basically anything that you're looking for. The difference with Magento 1 is that price-wise for Magento 2, the extensions are almost double the cost and sometimes triple or quadruple. They are more expensive, rightly so, because Magento 2 requires more technical skill to develop, more testing, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so like I don't see any difficulty finding extensions. The idea is though that we as agencies, we shouldn't use just any extension because it says that it does this, because that can open way more problems than it solves. But what we've been trying to do lately, come up with a list of like, hey, vetting basically 8 companies, extension companies there, or extensions, and come up with a list of extensions that we thoroughly test and we can use in our builds, or otherwise we don't use them at all because we've had a lot of headaches with them.
That's a great point, because not all extensions or extension developers or extension developer companies are created equal, and Magento has done a much better job with Magento 2 in vetting those with the marketplace. And that's one of the reasons there's not as many modules or as many options of modules, because it's harder to get it in there. And that's one of the reasons the module costs more. It's more expensive to develop, but it also goes through a more rigorous testing. And it's, but even though the testing is rigorous, it's not, just because it made it in the marketplace and it made it through Magento's vetting doesn't make it adequate for your e-commerce operation. So, you definitely, a good Magento website, and I try to tell this to every merchant we work with, a good Magento website is a simple Magento website. The fewer modules you install on it, the better it's going to be for you long term. The easier it's going to be to upgrade, the cheaper it's going to be to maintain the site, and the easier it's going to be to get the performance metrics that your customers are going to demand. And every module you put on there needs to be vetted for quality, as far as how it's going to affect that performance or what else it's going to break.
Yep.
All right. We'll keep going down the list here. Brooklyn Heritage had a follow-up to the migration question. as far as migrating data, I think this was around how Aaron handles password resets. But any advice for how to smoothly handle that? And this, we may have touched on some of this already, but fear of abandonment if they can't log in at checkout and can't check out due to an existing email. Any advice other than what we already covered on
TJ,
psychologically how to make that smooth?
The best way to do that is to not bother with it at all. That's how we've done it in the past. We don't migrate passwords. We don't, from a PCI compliance, it's a responsibility. And two, we just put a notification on the login or account creation page saying like, hey, welcome to our new website. Please reset your password here if you had an account with us, and that solves it, and we don't have to deal with that at all. And that's what we've done in the past. Some customers are happy, some customers are not happy. Maybe not happy, but I don't see a big deal about it, and I see it like pretty standard, honestly. Rarely with customers that.
I like that approach, and I think what you're saying is you celebrate the fact that it's a new website. You celebrate it, right? This is a new website. We've improved it. We're helping you. We're trying to make it better. Look, the website's faster. Look, we've got new features. Look, the user experience is much, much better. This is awesome. This is a celebration. This is a good thing. There's only one downside. You got to reset your password, bro, because we value your security. We want you to be secure. We want you to be happy and feel comfortable shopping on our web store. So you know what we did? We didn't migrate your password. That way you can reset it. We've got, even stricter security measures, and we store it and we encrypt it, even more complicated. And, part of our improvement is improving our security as well. So you've just got this one little inconvenience to experience all of this awesomeness. We put all of this effort into providing you.
Amen.
Exactly. Sold.
Yeah.
So, you just celebrate it, right? The best answer is a transparent answer. You don't want to just imply that, oh, you need to reset your password and not give them a reason. And, they just assume something bad or something negative. Let them know that it's a good thing, right? It's all salesmanship. It's all skewing it to the good. So, all right. So I am just reading through the comments here. Migrating customers into B2B is one thing that has speed bumps. Absolutely. Amen. Again, I mean, this is church at this point, right?
Yeah.
How are you, especially you've got corporate accounts and tiers as far as, all of that stuff. Are you guys doing any migration of customers into B2B? I mean, especially if it's coming from, some other module, maybe it's IWD's modules, or maybe it's some custom implementation. How do you handle that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's been different when we've done it for different users. Often there's an ERP, that's sort of a source of truth. The ERP has like the account list and has some sort of common ID that joins the company level record, the account level record with the individual users. And, our client is going to pull that out, and we're going to import it into the Magento tables, right, in that respect. And that's pretty valuable if you want to take advantage of the B2B functionality. So you can kind of like launch your site with that relationship between the user and the parent company already set. One thing I'll say, I think somebody had asked earlier on about most common customization to core B2B. I think that was Daniel asked that. And I can never tell if Daniel's being facetious or not, but I'm going to answer it like it's a real question. One of the things we've done on every single build is add a. Oh, Jent's getting into the game. Hold on. We gotta stop. I want to see what he's drinking.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mention this at the beginning. I'm drinking a single malt 16-year-old Lagavulin. I'm like pretty picky with my drinks, and I like really expensive single malt whiskeys and cigars.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good. This is good.
Yeah.
See, when I run my own agency and I'm not just an employee, I'll graduate to your. I got to stick with the beer though. I don't. Kurt doesn't give me that much money, so.
The tricky part is though that you don't drink as much because it's such a quality drink. You know, like with like you need 1, 2, and it hits you like drinking like 10 Johnny Walkers. You know.
All right, you should write copy for him. I'll keep that in mind. So I think to answer Daniel's question, one of the things that we do most often is build something into the back end of Magento to allow a sales rep or admin employee to log into the front end as a customer. Because one of the things that's true with B2B, especially with these complex account relationships where I've got lots of sub-users under a company, there actually isn't any way in Magento 2.2 for an admin user to manage those relationships. It's only available through the front end of Magento, logging in as a customer. So to facilitate the sort of like, value add account manager workflow that is, my customer calls me on the phone and says, hey, I need to add Jim Bob to my accounts team. We can sort of have a way to facilitate that taking place. That only works if you've imported the company to customer relationship, via an ERP or some master system of record.
Yeah. So I guess the question is the answer is migrating customers to B2B is not an easy thing unless you're really big and you've got a more sophisticated system managing that.
It's not even really easy then necessarily, but it's
easy is a relative term, right?
Yeah.
So there's I don't know if we have a great answer for that. That's probably a real specific case by case kind of question. It depends on what your B2B setup is currently. Do you have a B2B setup? Do you have corporate accounts and hierarchy? And if that's the case, then maybe we can find a way to migrate that and replicate it in Magento 2. But it just depends on how you've got it set up. All right. So the Mr. Nash 321 here in chat has asked, are sales better on Magento 2? So I'll start with I'm gonna load this question up a little bit and pitch the softball here in that the answer is yes, but for me, the answer is yes, but it's a matter of it depends on what your M1 site looks like. If you've got that thing, just streamlined and fast, and you've worked out your user experience, and it's exactly what you want it to be, then maybe not. You may not have an improvement. But if you've been rocking around on Magento for 4, 5, 6 years, and you've just been upgrading and you haven't been consistently improving your experience, and your site is too narrow, or it's not super mobile friendly, or it's not fast enough, then a migration to Magento 2, even from Community Edition to open source, is going to be a drastic improvement in performance and user experience, which is going to lead to more sales if you have traffic. So it's a bit of a loaded question, because the answer is depends, but every merchant I'm dealing with is using this as an opportunity for an improvement, not just an upgrade. So in all cases, it is leading to a better user experience, which should lead to more sales. Are you guys seeing pretty much the same thing?
I would totally agree with you, TJ. If all things remain the same, that you just replicated even the design of the Magento 1 store to the Magento 2 store, just because of two factors, number one, speed, and number two, the checkout experience, logically, your sales should remain the same, if not, move up a little more than what they used to be, logically. But again, that question is so loaded that there are so many factors that come into place, as to hey, why you migrated to Magento 2, what kind of improvements you did, what other, UX, different tools you used, did you use Nostop or to personalize the shopping experience? Did you use ListTrack or Dotmailer to bring more visitors to your Magento 2 store, so that you can let your customers know about the new website and the new experience and the new offerings that you have? So it is it's a complicated question to have a simple answer or direct answer to it.
I would echo that. One thing I'll say, we've been paying a lot of attention as a company to technical SEO, specifically on all new builds, and that comes up a lot, even in the context of the Magento 1 to Magento 2 migration, because a lot of times we find that merchants are wanting to change while they're going to take the opportunity to change category taxonomy, their URL structure, maybe they'll be collapsing subcategories into a larger parent category, reducing the number of pages on the site, making changes to their content strategy, maybe only selectively migrating some content over. One of the things that will affect your sales potentially negatively that you're going to want to pay attention to before you launch is making sure that you've got 301 redirects in place where it's appropriate. And if you're going to do 301 redirects, make sure you're doing those from pages with comparable content, because Google will only let you stretch that so far before they just soft 404 that old redirect. And so you can see organic SEO loss with any sort of new site structure. And since you have the opportunity to change your URL and category structure with a migration, that's something to pay attention to avoid loss of sales. But everything else you guys have said, I would agree with.
Yeah. Great point.
It's a really, really good point, Aaron. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, like the migration SEO is extremely important. And if a merchant is trying to move to Magento 2, that is a huge consideration that they need to keep in mind, because, as you said, Aaron, if you don't do the 301 redirects right, if you don't, it can take days for huge websites. It can take, like a long time to do them correctly and to improve the user experience so that people don't land on 404 pages, or Google doesn't land on 404 pages. But what I've seen that is super important to do correctly and to dedicate time. Usually on our end, we have the merchant, the customer, dedicate their own team because it's a lot of work. But what I've seen from my experience with migratory SEO is that for websites that are an authority in what they do, or for bigger websites, Google super fast re-indexed the new website, and it was like even when you search, you don't find any more old pages from the old website. So, and once you do the website change and you do all the tricks and you submit the sitemap and robots text and so on and so forth, Google does a good job at helping you, if you do your part as well. So that's great. And yeah.
Nice. All right. So we've got another question here in the chat. How are people changing tech stacks from 1 to 2? Dedicated to cloud, homegrown AWS deployments versus enterprise cloud, commerce cloud, whatever it's called, is the question. So, just think back a few years ago, right? 3 years ago, 2 years ago, when you were doing Magento 1 implementations, or clients that are coming on board now, how does that tech stack differ than that it did in the past?
Well, Commerce Cloud exists now, so that's a big difference. I mean, I would say any Magento Commerce opportunity that comes to us from Magento has cloud. Like that's the new normal now, and we still see some folks running on dedicated gear. I've seen more homegrown AWS implementations on Magento 2 than I saw on Magento 1. I think it's certainly friendlier to that. But I'd say there's more diversity would be my answer to that. It used to be pretty much everyone was running close to the same kind of stuff that we encountered, right? Everybody was on a Nexus box or Mage Mojo or Simple Helix or something like that. And now it feels like there are more players in the game than there were 3 years ago.
Yeah. What was the question again? Can you repeat it?
Yeah, they were just kind of asking around, you know, Magento 2, when you're dealing with Magento 2 customers at this point, what are you seeing as far as upgrades or differences in the tech stack? You know, are people moving to cloud? Are you seeing more AWS implementations? You know, are people still kind of on-premming the hosting, or, you know, kind of how is your tech stack different than it used to be?
So number one, as Aaron brought up, is that when you talk to a lead from Magento, that Magento sends us, or we send to Magento, cloud is the number one solution of choice. And cloud is pretty good. Again, it's like super fast. The technology behind it is really awesome. And from a DevOps perspective, you can be coding on, once the contract is signed, you know, like our dev team can be working on the actual project like day two, versus having a hosting company build the environment out, or provision the server if it is a managed server, or having our team build on our own AWS box. So the cloud solution is what I've seen a lot that people go with. And then you have companies, you know, like Nexus, that you can host Magento to, like Mage Mojo, which are the two primary companies that we work with. And then we are trying to build our own infrastructure actually on AWS, so that we host all of our customers. Because what we've seen with the managed hosting is that we are trying to, you know, like do everything to do automation a lot. And for Jenkins and Capistrano, it's really hard for continuous integration to, like, when you manage, you know, like by the time you go to Mage Mojo and to wait for the support ticket to come back, or the Nexus, it's hard, and we just waste time. While when we have our own AWS box, we own it, we can do whatever we want. And we've seen that really useful lately, and we're moving more and more towards it. Not saying that we're not sending any more customers to Mage Mojo or to Nexus, or working with them if the customer chooses a managed hosting like them, or not saying that we're not using Magento Cloud, but, you know, like these are all the options that I know from experience out there.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're seeing as well. I mean, if a lead is coming from Magento, or if you send them to Magento, Magento is leading with cloud. Oftentimes they don't know there are other options unless they object to cloud for some reason. We still see, and that's great. I mean, it's a great technology stack. I mean, like anything, you know, when it's in its infancy, it has some complications that they've got to work out, but you know, seem to have smoothed out a lot of those issues over the last year or so. I love the Stein, by the way. It cracks me up every time I see that big ass glass tip back. But it makes beer drinking much more fun to watch. It's a spectator sport when you have a boot or a Stein, whereas it's a participation sport when you're drinking out of a can or a bottle. So, but as far as hosting, you know, we still do quite a few. We'll call them on-prem. Some of them are, some of them aren't. We tend to get a lot of our bigger merchants come with some sort of hosting arrangement, you know, whether it's a company that does all of their IT that does hosting, and or they may have their own data center where they host and they just choose to go that route, or, you know, we're doing some pharmaceutical stuff and you know, HIPAA compliance, and they want to, you know, just make sure they have all of that stuff internal. Outside of those occasions, you know, most people, if they're on Enterprise Edition nowadays, are going to be on cloud, most. And then if they're not on cloud, then you're going to see it is definitely, everybody seems to be leading with cloud. All of the, I think Nexus just announced some cloud offering, and Brooklyn Heritage brought up in the chat Mojo Stratus, which is Mage Mojo's auto scaling cloud offering. And so, yeah, everybody is going to cloud, and we always push for a lot of the tools that are in Magento Cloud with Blackfire IO and New Relic, and those things that maybe we didn't have available on a lot of Magento 1 builds traditionally if you had your own server.
Yeah, we've as a matter of fact, DJ, like our CTO James Cowie, he was part of the cloud infrastructure. He was an engineer when Magento built the cloud infrastructure because he used to work there, and he still has an account, that he uses that Magento has let him use. And we've run some tests lately for we have a big customer that is contemplating between, like hosting their website with the managed hosting provider or moving to cloud, to Magento Cloud. And it is like crazy fast, so much faster. It's really good. There are, again, bugs with it still, but if they continue that way, it will be super awesome and comparable. We don't need to bring names up with other SaaS platforms that host websites.
You can say their name, man. I'm just joking when
I don't care either, but I'm just saying.
It's okay. So we had a question here from Robert Rand. Glad to see you on the live stream here, Robert. Haven't seen you since the last Imagine. Let me know, are you going to be at Imagine? We could hang out by the pool there again. And so he said, since the topic of M2 multi-channel connectors came up, are you running into any specific gaps in available M2 connectors for popular accounting, ERP, or point of sale platforms? And I think you touched on that a little bit, Aaron. But let's kind of reiterate and hammer that home. As far as the popular ones, are you seeing a gap in availability of those plugins off the shelf?
Yeah, I would say generally no on our end for most of what we've seen. I would say the big things, the big systems we see: NetSuite, QuickBooks, Microsoft Dynamics. Those are sort of the three. Like when I get an RFP, chances are one of those three systems, or if not more than one, is on there. There are a few others out there that we run into from time to time. And then I think, like I said, I've got more customers who are sort of rolling their own, or vendors who are rolling their own with some sort of middleware like MuleSoft. So I haven't seen too many gaps. I have seen some quality gaps, maybe, where what you're looking at for some of these is the first attempt at a Magento 2 integration with a vendor, and they haven't had the time to sort of refine it, shake out the bugs, add more functionality to it. So it may not be as performant or functional or stable as their Magento 1 solution might be, but it exists and it can be fixed. So it's not a complete gap.
Yeah.
What about you, Genty? Are you kind of seeing the same thing, or are you running into problems with integrations with popular platforms?
No, everything is amazingly right there, and just because of the nature of Magento, that even if there isn't, you can find a workaround to integrate. But we've done NetSuite integrations with the Celigo connector. It's really awesome. We're doing a Microsoft Dynamics ERP integration now for the website. So everything is there, and most of all, what I'm seeing increasingly is that the core of Magento 2 has a lot of channels or connectors or solutions, however you want to call them, built in. It's super exciting that, hey, even the Amazon will be in the core pretty soon, and we're testing it out for one project that we're doing actually right now. Magento gave us access to that to see how. So,
I think it really depends on the definition of popular, right? How popular is popular? If it's some obscure system or something that's kind of at the end of its life and people don't really see a future in building and supporting a connector for it, then you're going to have some trouble finding an off-the-shelf integration. But if it's something that a ton of people use, then traditionally those companies either sponsor a connector for Magento if their merchants will benefit from it, or someone sees that as an opportunity to generate some revenue and creates that integration. So it's usually there. We haven't seen a big problem, at least in the last 7, 8 months. You asked me a year ago, there was a much, much bigger gap than there is now. But we haven't seen any huge problems with it. So and if if you're watching, you're still watching, we still got quite a few people watching. Get your questions in. I have gotten through all of the questions, so keep asking them. I mean, we're here. We've been going for an hour now. So we can keep going. We can call it quits. This usually lasts from an hour to an hour and a half, depending on if we get questions. It's gone by really fast. I mean, this has been great questions. I've got something I want to test here real quick though. We've got Imagine coming up in a week. For me, I fly out Saturday week, so a week from tomorrow, I fly to Vegas and I'm there until Thursday. So if anyone is there and they see me, tap me on the shoulder, I'd love to have a conversation and catch up. And I'm trying to work on my mobile live stream setup. So I've actually had my camera going on this live stream. If you see the videos down here, you see this one right here has got like a side view here of me. That has been my camera. So I'm going to test that real quick. I've got to mute this microphone so we don't get inception. But give me.
Go for it, DJ.
I think my battery is low on my microphone here. I left it on, but now we've got the live stream set up. So can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Fantastic. So I'm trying to kind of minimize my setup a little bit. I've got some delay, so it's kind of messing with me because I'm talking on here and I'm listening on the laptop. That's messing me up. So sorry about that, but that won't happen when I'm actually just live streaming on this. But I'm trying to minimize my setup so you can see. Well, I can't really. You can see my regular setup here, right? I got you guys on the monitor over there. Got the screen. We've got interns and people over there. But this thing, I can grab it and I can just start walking around and having conversations, and we can spin and get you dizzy and all of that jazz, So I'm excited about this setup. And I'm going to switch back to this because this is messing with my head here.
I think the first one sounded better, DJ. It was more.
Well, the first microphone and audio video setup is great. It's much, much better. This is a wireless mic. This mic sounds pretty good, but through this, I think it's really on the encoding side for the phone is the problem. And the phone doesn't encode the audio video as quickly and as well as going through the PC. So the quality is not going to be as good. And I've got to figure out if I can live with that enough to not tote 800 pounds worth of gear on an airplane.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just kind of that, I get some content out. It's fine. It's fun. We'll have a good time. I'm going to try to take this to Pre-Imagine and the parties. I mean, I obviously can't stream talks with it, but get into the exhibit space and do some stuff with it. And just, it's just about having some fun and kind of trying to document what Imagine looks like for people that may have not made it there. And I think it'll do for that purpose. Yeah. If we're going to do a National Geographic documentary or some really high-end interviews, then that encoding quality is just not going to cut it.
Yeah. So DJ, when are you going to be at Imagine then? Saturday?
Saturday, yeah. My plane lands, I want to say about 11. It's between 11 and noon local time in Vegas Saturday morning. I don't really have any plans. I normally fly out Sunday and then leave Thursday this time, or leave like Friday and stay a couple of days after, but I'm always exhausted. So it sounds like a good idea, but then Wednesday afternoon, I just crash and sleep for 2 days and then fly back. So I figured I would go a day earlier, maybe go to the hackathon, see how that's going down, not really participate, but just go, make fun of people or something. I don't really know what I'll do there. And have some fun Saturday night, catch up with some people and then be there for the big damn run Sunday morning, and which I've been training for, but my back's having some issues because it's still trying to figure out why the hell I'm running, and it's not used to that. So I may or may not get to run. I think I may have got drafted into flying a drone and taking some video footage of it, but I wanted to be there and experience that, and then the partner summit in the afternoon, and then it kicks off with Pre-Imagine. So when are y'all arriving?
I don't know. Aaron, are you coming to?
Oh yeah, Classy Llama will be sending, I think, 14 people. We usually travel in a large herd. We're going to get in Saturday, and then Sunday we will be doing the same thing we did last year. We will be getting free limo rides from the airport to the Wynn. As you get hand escorted by a designated llama. I believe there's champagne in the limos.
What the hell? And then I fly in on Saturday and I don't even get a ride.
What about women?
What's that?
Nothing. I'm just
I don't know what he said. I'm not going to repeat that. I have nothing to do with it. I do not condone anything that he said. The views expressed on this live stream are the contributor of those particular views and do not represent the official views of TJ Gamble, the e-commerceaholic, and/or Jamerson.
Good disclaimer.
Yeah. Good job.
Now that's great. I took the limo last year. That was a lot of fun. It kind of sucks that they're not happening. I mean, I understand why they're not happening Saturday.
We won't be there.
Really
Yeah.
Saturday, but it's it's still. I did get the day I booked my tickets. I think I got the email or booked the flights. I got the email that's like, "Hey, limos," and I'm like, "Dang, man,
yeah,
I'm gonna have to take an Uber. Like, this is not near as cool."
It's true.
But
we'll also have the new Classy Llama llamas, so make sure you swing by and get you one. We'll say you guys one.
Can we get a worldwide exclusive on the Classy Llama right now? You got one on you?
I would be killed. Like, it would happen. Like, I would disappear. The screen would go black. Our marketing team watches us. I'm actually being filmed in the room that I'm in right now, so I can't. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
They're always, if this is your first Imagine or your first conference where Classy Llama is, the llama plays. I've really I'm envious of the llama. As far as a name of a company, Classy Llama, it's okay. It's unique. It's brandable. It's different. It's quirky. I get it. But then you add in the plush llama, and it just brings it grounds it. It brings it all together. You go to a conference. I think it was IRCE last year. There's 8 billion booths. That's not a scientific number, but it felt like that. And there's nobody at any of them. Those people, like literally one of those guys, I think I got it around here somewhere. One of those guys is giving away $2 bills to get you to take a business card. He's got a case with $2 bills and a business card, and he's handing those to you to get you to take the business card. And Classy Llama had a line to get a stuffed llama.
Mm-hmm. Those llamas cost more than $2 a piece to manufacture. So I think.
No, I get it, but the branding on that is just that's incredible, right? I mean, it's whoever had that idea deserves a raise.
Oh, Kurt, and I think he's doing okay, but I'll pass that along.
Okay, I'm just saying. I didn't know if somebody's like, we should probably do some stuffed llamas. But catering to the kids, because I get a bunch. I'm going to do something fun with my swag this year, but traditionally it's like, okay, I get some T-shirts that don't fit. I get some garbage that I don't care about. I don't even know what, like these things we gave away at the conferences we did. Like, what the heck? I mean, who cares about that crap, right? I mean, nobody wants that stuff. So, you end up with a bunch of garbage, and you get it to the hotel room, it ends up in the trash can. If it makes it home, your kids look at it and then they throw it away. So stuff like that, it's great. It's the cape, and then you added. I mean, we've had a lot of capes in the Magento space. I will admit that, and some of that is my fault. Some of it's not my fault. I forget somebody had a cape, and then I did the Magento capes, and ran those for a year, and then you guys had the mask and the kids capes, which were great. So the capes may be a little played at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But it worked really well last year.
Catering, new fidget spinner.
Yeah, new fidget spinner. Yeah, get rid of the capes and the fidget spinner. Let's give them a little break, and then we'll bring them back.
Mm-hmm.
It's makes sense. We've got a little activity in the chat here. Mike McCoy says it looks like I've gotten a little sun. Mike, it's all in the lighting. I'm not as pale as maybe I look like in some of the previous live streams. I actually tan really well, but what I do is I overlight. With this camera, I add too much light, which darkens the background and creates kind of a little bit of depth and really makes the logo glow back there that, I've had so many compliments on. So it makes me a little bit washed out, really makes my forehead shine. I had a little more hair, but then I went and got a haircut. So you can see my big old meaty forehead there, and it's glowing. But I tan really easy, and I'm not that pale. I'm not as pale as I look in these live streams. So I apologize for that. I've got to get some dimmable LEDs to take these lights down just a little bit, but I overlight myself so that if this camera, like if you saw the other camera here, you'll notice that I'm much more illuminated because it doesn't have the ISO and the aperture to really handle the depth I'm trying to create with the
technical, breaking out the technical term.
Yeah. I didn't know anything about cameras. I'm like, what do all these buttons do? I don't know. And then I got into YouTube. I mean, we're coming up on a year, probably 8, 9, 10 months ago. And all the first videos I posted were just a GoPro. Like literally, I just set a GoPro on a tripod, and some of them I even shot with the GoPro mic, which was just awful. And then I got a little external mic, and then I went to IRCE last year, and I took the GoPro. I mean, I think you were on there, right, Aaron? I think I interviewed you. I interviewed somebody at Classy.
Was it you? Got Rob Cole.
Rob. You're right. It was Rob.
Different guy with a beard.
I knew Rob was on there. I couldn't remember if it was both or I don't know. I interviewed a bunch of people at IRCE. So, but I literally, it was a GoPro and a little bitty wireless lav mic. Like, I think it's not the same mic, but it's basically just a little mic like this plugged into the GoPro. Yeah. And I was just like talking and handing the mic and talking and handing the mic. And it worked. It worked better at IRCE because we had better lighting. In this dark office with no lights and the overheads, I come out like an Oompa Loompa. I'm just orange and it's grainy and it's miserable. So I started, working on technical improvements, and then I went to phone and did some, and then I got this camera last year and just, slowly been working on getting better lenses and better setup and lights and, wireless microphones and all that jazz. So I think I've got just about everything to do anything I want to do. It's just a matter of carrying all this crap wherever I want to be to do it.
I think you should go to Hollywood now, TJ. You have all the equipment. You could be a director.
Yeah, and we're getting better and better. The editors, the interns have really helped out. They've really helped with the Cure for Shopify, the Cure for SaaS video. That was the first video we did with them where we really worked on storytelling and kind of doing something. A lot of the videos we've done, they've been useful. They're a little dry. They're a little me just looking at the camera and talking kind of stuff. And that's okay. We've tried to do as much as we could with those. We've pulled back the last few weeks. We're doing some sales and promotional stuff that the general public won't see, but we're really working on a video. I've had them working the last couple of days on a video that we hope to launch next Thursday, which is really working on storytelling. We've made as much technical improvement as we can, as far as better equipment and learning how to use it and the setup and getting a backdrop and, this little mobile stuff here and all that jazz. Now we've just got to work on storytelling and making what is a dry technical topic interesting, which is what I like about the live stream, right? We can at least get intoxicated, have some interesting folks talking about something that would otherwise just be miserable to sit here and have an hour-long conversation about.
Yeah, Kalen should take a page from you, TJ.
Yeah.
And Kalen's doing a different thing. I like some of what Kalen's doing. Now, the thing I like about what Kalen's doing is Kalen, and he's been asking some questions, and he may find that what he's trying to do now is a mistake, but I think he's going to make some technical improvements if he can keep the essence of what he's doing in that his video is raw. It's kind of unedited. It's a little more like Mage Talk, where they get together and they go through and, you know, they joke about editing the mistakes out, but then they don't. And it's just, you know, whatever they put down on film or on tape is what comes out. And, you know, with some, I'm sure with some light edits, and that's a lot easier and a lot more fun to do. And if you try to do really complex things with multiple shots and multiple cameras and multiple angles and different locations and different backdrops, it becomes overwhelming really quickly, and you can burn yourself out and then you quit producing. It's just about producing.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, for me, guys, I'm going to San Diego tomorrow with Paul Rogers and Louis Sellers from Pinpoint, and we're going to be there for a week working out of there, and then we're driving to Vegas next Saturday, and it's going to be me, Beth, and James Cowie and Natasha. So 2 people from our UK team, and Beth and I from our US team at Imagine. So looking forward to having a lot of fun. And
that's how you do it right there. I tell you what I want to do next year. And I've said this for a couple of years now, but I really want to do it next year. And I'm going to see if I've got an old 63 Impala, and I'm going to see if I can get it ready. I've got a lot of work to do to it to have it ready, but I literally want to do a week-long cruise to Imagine. I want to see if we can't get a carload of people and hop in that Impala. It's got plenty of trunk space for luggage. And I want to start on the East Coast and take a road trip. We'll hit the Llamas there in Missouri. We'll hit other partners on the trip. We'll just take a week and, you know, just kind of crisscross the U.S. and end the road trip at Imagine on Saturday before it starts.
Perfect. Let's form us a convoy, get some CB radios.
Exactly. I mean, that's exactly what I'm talking about, right? Can we, you know, can I get Ali from Imagination Media? You know, maybe he drives here and rides with me. Maybe he brings his own ride. I know some of the Mage Mojo folks have some cool cars. So I think I've talked to them about their vets and stuff. You know, we'll meet somewhere, I don't know, Memphis or wherever makes sense that's strategically located. And then we'll just kind of, you know, it won't be a direct path. You know, we may go north one year and south the other year, and just I want to take a week. What I want to do is take a week-long vacation with some folks I like before Imagine. You know, the problem with it is that the real hole in this idea is the trip back. Like, the trip out there sounds fun, but then I've got my car in Vegas, and all I want to do is fly home and take a nap. Right. Yeah. So I'd either have to ship the car back, or then I've got a 4-day road trip coming home.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the whole. Maybe I rent something and we road trip it, and then we just fly back. I don't know. I don't know if you can rent cool old cars. I haven't really tried. We'll rent a Ferrari and we'll, you know, bull run it over there.
TJ, I have this guy that I'm meeting tomorrow in Vegas, and we have a joke going on about cats and meowing. And Paul and Louis are on and they are like busting my chops, texting me, hey, make the meow, and I want to make like a meow sound for them. Meow. Because they are like,
did that cop just say meow?
Yeah.
They are asking me, hey, can you say meow on the podcast? And I say, like, hey, why not? You know, like,
you should have just worked it in, though. You literally should have just said, that sounds like a good idea, meow.
Yeah.
Meow, you're talking. You know, you should have totally just worked it in, Super Trooper style, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. I had to be childish, but you know,
good.
We're all children inside us, one way or another.
Yes,
absolutely. All right. You know, I think unless anybody has any other questions, I'll give you a couple of minutes to speak now or forever hold your peace. Definitely hit the thumbs up on the video. That helps us. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Like I said, we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, which, you know, YouTube gives us a little more trust, so our videos get a little broader reach, and we can overtake any, you know, negative Magento videos. Gives us the ability to, you know, try to steer people into a legitimate, informed decision instead of finding whatever some idiot puts on YouTube. You know, it's one of the things I keep telling people when I run in for. They're like, "Oh, I saw you from YouTube," you know, and they're making a big deal. And I'm like, you do realize like anybody can post here, right? Like all you got to do is have a phone, and they let you just put up pretty much whatever you want. So you know, hit that subscribe button. Gives us a little more authority and a little more power to try to grow this live stream. We're definitely looking for people to be on the live stream. I've been trying to have a variety of folks, and you know, some people have been on multiple times, and I'm sure we'll continue to do that. But we're also looking for topics. So anything you want us to talk about that is of value, please, you know, send me an email, post it on Twitter or in the chat, and you know, that's always welcomed. And so with that, fellas, y'all have any closing notes? I appreciate you being on, and you know, as always, this is a great time, and you know, I think it's been informative, and hopefully the people watching got some value out of it. With that, any closing remarks?
Follow us on Twitter. We're all really funny on Twitter.
Yeah, we're not funny here, but we're all really funny on Twitter.
Better. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, it's been great talking to you guys, and great stuff. And looking forward to Imagine and seeing all the people that we commonly know in the industry and in the Magento community together. And looking forward to seeing everyone and to all the presentations and the keynote, and you know, like all the new announcements about what's to come. And it's a community like nothing else in the world. And so excited for next weekend.
Well said.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing everybody. You know, we've got 8 days till I'm in Vegas, and so if anybody that's watching is going to be there, I look forward to seeing you as well. And you know, we will have a live stream next Friday. I'm going to have a pre-imagine party next Friday, where we're just going to have random people on and talk about absolutely nothing useful. So it's going to be fun. Probably be talking about Imagine. I know we've had it as a topic on a few of these, and so we'll just, you know, we're just going to chat and have some folks on and have a good time next Friday. Keep it extremely casual as usual. So anyway, I appreciate you watching and look forward to seeing you next week.
Cheers.